Hi everyone. So I'm next. I'm Marc Kaplan. I'm really happy to be here. It's the first time I come to a blockchain event, although I mean we talk a lot about quantum tonight. I'm the CEO and founder of VeriQloud, and indeed we've been. I mean, when I'm asked what we're doing at VeriQloud, I always say we work at the intersection of cybersecurity and quantum. And what I want to do tonight, is to show you our approach, what we believe is interesting, what has been working, what has not been working, and initiate the discussion with all of you on how we can move things forward in the future. So I want to start with a story too. Oh, okay. I have to point my computer with the clicker. So the story of quantum cryptography. I mean, we heard a bit about what's happening there, but historically the field has started in the mid-60s, and the very first quantum task was invented. It was quantum money, and it was invented by this guy Stephen Wisner. It literally happened to him, out of nothing, right? He had this idea, and it was completely ridiculous. You had to put your quantum states into the banknotes and then start distributing the banknotes. So it doesn't make any sense in practice. And it was, I mean, he didn't manage to publish that. And the only thing that saved him was that he met Charles Bennett a couple of years later. And Bennett understood the idea first, and then started talking with Gilles Brassard. So it's also a known story that they met in the beach of Puerto Rico in 1979, where Gilles Brassard was in the water, and someone comes to him and says, I know how to make a perfectly secure key exchange using quantum information. That's how they wrote quantum cryptography. Sorry, that's how they invented quantum cryptography. And by the way, so this cartoon is not by me, it's by someone called Sheldon Lee. I saw it at a conference, and where the cartoon is lying is that it was also very, very hard for them to publish it. It took them, 5 years from the initial idea to the publication. And I guess the reason I wanted to show you this, right, is because quantum cryptography becomes so much part of a folklore that people draw cartoons about it. You can find these stories and you can tell them to your kids somehow, because there's a whole folklore about how quantum cryptography started. What people don't necessarily say is that it all started as a completely theoretical idea for the purpose of doing theory. So this is a paper by Gilles Brassard, who was published a few years ago, where he, it's more like a position paper saying our goal by doing all of this is to understand the deep nature of physics and information, to use information to understand the deep nature of physics. And it's a fantastic work program. It has led to very, very important areas of foundations of quantum information. We heard about device-independent quantum cryptography, who, by the way, originally was also introduced as something completely theoretical. You can use cryptography to reconstruct the whole field, the whole quantum theory, for example. So this was the purpose. However, as I told you, it was difficult to publish for them. And what they had to do the experiment. They knew nothing about experiments, but they had, so Bennett and Brassard, these are them, they are still around. They had to perform this whole experiment, and this is the original setup that is laying somewhere at IBM in New York, that was shown for the first time at the World Congress, the World Quantum Congress last summer. Right, I like the way the field is advancing. Right, you have to do experiments. I strongly believe that it's an important step, even though it wasn't the original purpose. And from this, it has laid the ground for a quantum industry. Right, there is a quantum industry here. If you want to buy, so this is some hardware that has been produced a long time ago by a company called ID Quantic. ID Quantic is still a major player in quantum cryptography, but if you want to do QKD, you can purchase some hardware from ID Quantic or other vendors now. it's mature enough to deploy. Um, just a word before going there. The numbers here, I wrote the number here of the valuation of the company after their acquisition. These are the public numbers. It's quite low, showing you, what the field is still like. Although it's the main company doing quantum cryptography. I want to continue by telling you, these quantum networks. Usually it's a message that I have to pass, strongly emphasize, but I think it's been clear tonight, is that quantum cryptography exists as an industry. It's small, but it exists. Unlike quantum computers, it's not something that requires a lot of technology development. We need a lot more, culture. We also need to build infrastructure. I believe this is a very strong barrier. But the main areas where things are happening, you can see China, Europe, and North America, especially US, of course. And they have a different approach in all these places, and I wanted to go through these three regions. The first one, China. Of course, we heard, if you look at the news, or if you've been looking at the news, we heard that they have this huge QKD network that spans over all the east coast of China. There is also a satellite connecting two different ground stations there in the east and the west. They have local area nodes. Now the real thing is that we don't really know what's happening there. We don't really know who's using it. There's not much publication, nothing more than press releases, I would say. It's all led by the government. And of course, in this case, the fact that the government, the infrastructure provider, telecom operators, the end users, universities or companies, banks, they are all more or less the same entity, right? They are all government bodies. So this is why it could be deployed very fast. But what we see in neighboring countries is in Singapore and Korea especially, is very interesting. These are two countries where you have commercial test beds available, and they are aiming for practical deployment in the short term, before the end of the decade, basically. Europe is also developing quite fast. There's a big umbrella project in the EU called EuroQCI that aims at building. So this is an artistic view, but it's quite close to what's happening. With here you see these local nodes in large cities, and later there will be satellites. And we still phase one of the project, the commercial, or let's say the operational. It's supposed to be operational by 2027, and although we don't have satellites now, among the 27 member states, you have 26 national test beds that have been deployed, with telecom operators leading the thing. And I think it's very interesting to see that not only the hardware is ready, but telecom operators, they already know how to deploy it, and basically they do it with existing fiber. So you have to dedicate your fiber, but you can use commercial fiber that is already laid down in the ground if you want to start quantum cryptography. So it has a cost, right, to rent this fiber, but they already know how to operate it. And well, in the French project, at least, our national company Orange, they also managed to show that. So it's not only, they splice the fiber all along. So you have end-to-end fiber, it's there, and you can use it. So by the way, so we are part of this EuroQCI projects, and we also work on, we mostly work on use cases. What can you do with these QKD networks when they are there? Not quite device-independent cryptography is a bit far for us, but we work on secure distributed storage, privacy-preserving computing, both for classical and quantum computers. In the US, of course, you have several test beds. QKD is a no-go there. The National Security Agency said no. So what people do is that they mostly work on entanglement distribution. You have in New York, for example, a QKD an entanglement distribution networks that works 24/7. And what they do with it is distributing keys. So they are doing QKD, but they don't want to say it, basically. For now, I mean, there's a bit of work on clock synchronization as well, but it remains really, really marginal. So mostly, it's mostly about deploying the technology right now. Another approach that I want to stress before I move on is another project in the EU called Quantum Internet. Quantum Internet Alliance is a project where what we're trying to do is not only deploying QKD, is sort of like further down the road, connect any 2 points in the Earth with quantum communication channel that can exchange arbitrary quantum information. So of course it's very far from now. We again work on applications here, and I computed the numbers. So applications. So of course it requires a lot of hardware to do it, and it's very difficult to achieve that. But for applications, the total is around 5%. 5% of the budget is dedicated to applications for this quantum internet, right? And this is the kind of deliverables that we have. Reports, research mostly. We also have a GitHub library for all the simulations of the protocols. And what's interesting in this approach, we heard about device-independent cryptography. We heard about several tasks here, but not only these tasks exist, but you can also sort of order them in the depending on the hardware that you need. And the philosophy here is that we will have QKD networks soon, hopefully. It will be working, but you can also look at later stages, right? And the reason you want to do that is because whenever you have a piece of hardware that is available for quantum information processing, so memories, entanglement distribution, you want to add it to the network because there is a very precise list of applications that becomes unlocked. Right, so there is a very nice correspondence between the hardware that you have and the applications that you can run. So very quickly, let me talk about applications. Again, I won't spend much time. So repeaters. So building a repeater to extend the distance, sending quantum information, precisely because of no cloning, is a very challenging task. However, it's well known that if you have such repeaters, you can have better multi-party computing. So you can enhance multi-party computing by sending quantum states. And again, these are the same states as in QKD. You just need to send them at long distances. The message here is also that this is a task that has been around for since 1995. Sorry. There's been a series of theoretical work. As far as I know, there's never been any implementation of this protocol, even in academic environments. Same thing for unclonable cryptography. Unclonable cryptography uses no cloning to realize certain tasks, and you need quantum memories to store the quantum states usually. The only implementations that I know of these protocols are without memory, right? The memories were not around when the protocols were implemented. And last but not least, once you have fault-tolerant quantum computing, you unlock something that is very important for us at VeriQloud. It's secure quantum cloud computing. So it's a little bit like fully homomorphic encryption, which I believe many people know here. It's fully homomorphic encryption with interaction. So right now, if you use a quantum computer in the cloud, you have to send a clear copy of your program, and there's a known solution to this problem for quantum computers. If you can send, again, the same states as in QKD directly to your quantum computer, you can encrypt your full computation before delegating it. So here, there's been a few implementations. In academic environments, and I'm very happy that we participated to the state-of-the-art implementation that was published here last year. And we are developing also a range of products around that. All right, so just to wrap up, this was a very quick picture of what's happening in the quantum cryptography field today, so for the past 20 years, we've had a lot of, I mean, it was a very academic field, lots of very nice projects, but lab projects. Today, most of the people that are interested in applications work with simulations, but then you can ask what security you can guarantee in this case. Short term, we'll see QKD networks developed by operators, and the long term is, of course, this quantum internet, which is like the furthest term for quantum communication. Right, and I want to conclude with one last word. I believe that today the event that we're having is very important. The messages that I've heard, you know, they are music to my ears. I've been going everywhere saying we need to look more about applications. It should be a priority. This is what should lead the development of quantum networks. And now there's two of us. Thank you.
Do you hear me? Yes. Thanks for the presentation. So in your, you were mentioning like this quantum networks to perform, for example, like quantum key distribution. I was wondering how, like, what are like the security assumption on the hardware operation when you're performing these operations? Yeah, so like the security assumption on the hardware operators when you're performing as a user these operations.
So, yeah, so unlike device-independent cryptography, you have to assume that your hardware behaves as it's supposed to. You cannot, so if you purchase hardware, and you can do it, you can purchase hardware, it's not possible with QKD hardware to distinguish between quantum operations or things being simulated on a Raspberry Pi, not with existing hardware. I know of one company doing random number generators that come with some guarantees, but nothing in the QKD field so far.
In practice, is it BB84 in practice, or is it like a more modern, like EPR based type? Like what protocols used in practice for?
It depends. It depends. There's a lot of different approaches. So ID Quantique, for example, they had their own in-house patented protocol for a long time that they are switching to BB84, mostly for certification reasons, I assume. And then, so in satellites, it's always entanglement-based. Right. Well, yeah, almost. And then in the US, you know, in New York, Chicago, it's entanglement distribution.
Right. All right. Thank you.